Okay, welcome to Kendama, Gendale, and the fake news. I'm here with Will Neville,
Hello, how's it going?
and we're gonna go through some news links for you again today. All right, here's the first one. Netanyahu spurns secret peace officer. Ex-officials. Benjamin Netanyahu turned down regional peace initiative last year, brokered by John Kerry and Sons. Yada 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 yada. What do you think about this?
I don't know. I feel a lot of the far right media puts a lot of attention on uh, Middle Eastern politics, especially in Israel. I don't know. I'm just not really. I'm kind of skeptical of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably coming out in the context of like Donald Trump is super pro Israel.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of, I mean, this is Al Jazeera, right? What do you think
Yeah.
of Al Jazeera as a news source, like in general?
I don't know. I think they're they have some decent journalists. Some of the things they have done throughout the years, like kind of putting beheadings on television
Right.
of American contractors and everything like that. In Iraq is I don't know. They've received a lot of scrutiny because of that, but I think it's a pretty mixed bag. They do have some good journalists out there, but every now and then I'll see an article on Al Jazeera and I'll be like, huh?
Right. Yeah, I think they have like a lot of editorial freedom, and I think there's some really good journalism happening. But I think it's kind of comparable to like RT, right? Where
Yeah,
it's like they definitely have like an editorial agenda
yeah.
that they're pushing.
It's like Fox News is paying somebody in Russia to make publicize like the Fox News of Russia. I
Right,
don't
right.
know.
Okay. AP publishes memo stating National Guard could be mobilized in illegal immigrant roundup. White House denies. Um, this is kind of interesting. Um, this is Sean King, who's the BLM activist, who's kind of talking about this. I don't really know if this is real or not.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't really care
Yeah, I mean,
until they do get mobilized, or
yeah,
oh, are we gonna stop them from getting mobile? I don't know. It
there.
doesn't seem.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't know like how the AP kind of came up with something like
That's
this.
something that I've wanted for a while because,
Yeah.
like, a couple years ago, the AP started doing investigative journalism, and it's like they're not an investigative journalist outlet, right? Like
Hmm.
they're a wire service. They
Hmm.
publish news story. They're so I don't really
Yeah.
understand like what their agenda is, or like where they're coming from, or who their journalists are. It's just
Yeah.
this weird thing. I'm gonna go ahead and close this because it keeps opening up to it again. All right, U.S. Defense Secretary Mattis. U.S. will stay in Iraq for a while. What do you think about this? You've got a military background, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a veteran. I've served in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation New Dawn from October of 2009 and October of 2010.
Yep.
I was there like at the very tail end of the conflict. A roommate I had was there at the very tail end of Operation New Dawn. He was a tanker in Iraq, and he was. They were responsible for getting all the military equipment from Iraq across the Kuwaiti border, and just like he was telling me not too long ago that he actually crossed the border from Iraq into Kuwait in a M1 Abrams tank, which it's kind of signifies kind of the
Right.
end of the conflict.
Right.
And just to think about how ISIS has essentially taken over a lot of parts in Iraq. The
Do you
western
think we
end.
should have left more troops there? In your opinion, like what?
Well, I think that it's very important that the Iraqi security forces
Right.
are equipped enough to deal with a lot of the uprise from these groups in Iraq that just
Right.
want to cause terror. And so, kind of what this article is kind of saying, I think Mattis, U.S. will stay in Iraq for a while. I'm not really sure to what capacity. I got a friend who is deploying in support of Operation Inherent Resolve sometime here pretty soon as an artilleryman, and I think of what a lot of what he's going to be doing is training some of the Iraqi forces
Right.
to help
There's this documentary called "Oh Country, My Country" that Laura Poitras did, and it's all about the Iraqi elections, the first elections after the invasion. And one of the things it talks about was like they wanted the Iraqis to feel as though they were running their own elections, so they didn't want the U.S. to participate in the security around the elections. But the Iraqi security forces weren't necessarily equipped to actually secure the elections properly. So instead, what happened is they had the private military contractors come in and secure the elections for them.
Wow.
That's kind of this weird, interesting dichotomy of like, yeah, you're trying to give them agency, but like that might actually lead to like less accountability and less responsibility on the part of like foreign forces.
Yep.
I thought this was interesting. The whole Mattis is saying we're not in Iraq to seize anybody's oil, which is like
okay, like about this time 5 years ago, I was in Iraq. No, I was longer than that. 7 years ago. This is 2010. General Kukalo kind of pinned our combat badges onto us, and he told us that in 2017, Iraq will be the second leading producer of crude oil in the world.
Well,
this time, 7 years ago.
Are they? Are they now? I don't actually know that.
Well, not really. I mean, they have seen a lot of changes and wealth in some areas, but it's still struggling.
Right. All right, Russian ambassador to the United Nations dies suddenly. I don't know anything about this. The Russian Foreign Ministry has given no details. It's kind of interesting. I saw somebody on Twitter, some left-wing pundit, I don't remember who it was, basically saying that this was the guy who recruited Trump to the USSR. That's
okay.
It seemed pretty dumb to me, but
seems pretty silly.
Yeah, I think it's worth at least recognizing that narrative is there. If somebody has any supporting info to back that up, I would be happy to explore it more. But at this point, I think it's pretty.
I don't know. It's Russia. I mean, journalists and ambassadors suddenly disappear all the time.
Right. You always have to kind of wonder, like, okay, what's the motivation for this? Like, what's going on? But also, like, I don't know necessarily enough about Russian politics to make any kind of theory.
Yeah,
so, all right. You sent me this video.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with this video. I think kind of the funniest thing, I don't usually like TED Talks anymore. I think they're kind of played out a little bit. But I thought one of the funniest things about this video is that Laura has like this, she definitely has like this CNN, like, today, 14 people went to the store, like that type of vibe. But it's like, it's this weird dichotomy because it's like she uses that voice, but she's saying things that she actually cares about and matter and stuff. So it's kind of this weird, like, jarring thing.
She did bring up some good points. It was 2 points she made was kind of for journalists and writers to kind of take, a Hippocratic oath.
Right.
And another one was
do no harm.
Do no harm. And in order for us, for the news, the journalists, people who read the news, to understand things more in depth, it's to embrace complexity.
Yeah.
Because we live in a very complex world, and another thing was giving more agency to, more
to local reporters.
Local reporters like Ed Kemick, Last Best News.
Right.
If you ever check out Last Best News, he's always got a story to tell. Great beat reporter, and that's.
I thought it was cool that she wanted to like use local reporters as like partners or as people that were, and not just people to provide the line that the news reporters need for the report that they're trying to make. You know what I mean? It's like actually using them to report stuff. Good video. I was impressed. This one, so we found this. This might be the most brutal, honest obituary ever. This is one of those funny yet terse obituaries that often make headlines. Why do they make headlines? I have not seen headlines like this.
Why is CNN posting this?
Right, yeah, there's no, it doesn't make any sense. It's like somebody's daughter wrote an obituary about him, and he did so many drugs, and she's really sorry about him. She asked not to be named in the KPRK report, but screw that. Let's name her anyways.
Leslie's passing. If you go back down a little bit, it says, Leslie's passing. Leslie's passing proves that evil does in fact die, and hopefully marks a time of healing and safety for all.
All right. Cool. Good reporting, CNN. Sure. Nice work. Yeah. All right, this one I'm excited for. Kyrie
Kyrie Irving,
Irving explains that those Earth is flat comments. So,
Well, he went.
This
well,
is not even a conspiracy theory, he says.
Didn't he like go to Duke or something like that? I think he
don't
played
know.
at Duke.
I don't know much about sports at all, so I'm
Um,
kind of out of my.
I don't know. Was he paying attention in his classes? I don't know. I mean, he was probably really busy playing. I don't know. It's Kyrie Irving. I don't know.
I tend to think the whole flat Earth thing is just fake conspiracy news stuff that generally is like designed to discredit conspiracy theorists as like as a group of people. Yeah. I've tried reading flat Earth conspiracy or watching videos, and it's just like pretty bad. Like it's kind of some of the worst of like conspiracy rhetoric. You just have to look at it. Add these 14 confusing numbers together, and then it's obvious. Like, you know.
It's all divisible by 23. Wait.
But, yeah. But that said, the B.O.B. diss track about the Earth is flat was much better than Neil deGrasse Tyson's nephew's diss track about how the Earth is round. So, round earthers, step up your rap game. You know what I'm saying? Facebook listens. Okay, so Snopes discredited this whole thing of basically Facebook Messenger is
basically it's watching, like it's recording you, like I don't know. I was talking to some guy the other day who I was highly skeptical about it, didn't believe it or whatever. I thought I'd do the research for myself, and this is what it yielded. His words were like, well, there's this thing out there where if you put your phone right next to like your a radio or a station or whatever that's broadcasting in a different language.
Right. You'll start getting ads in that language. Yeah. It'll think that you're a Spanish language speaker, so it'll start targeting you.
And Reddit was all over this for a while too.
So okay, this is I think like a great example of why Snopes sometimes sucks, and I'm really increasingly distrustful of Snopes because obviously they have a limited amount of resources. They're a small organization, basically trying to cover everything that's factually incorrect and stuff. But this to me seems like a puff piece for Facebook, because one of the things that I remember about this story is that Facebook splintered off both of its apps. There's the Facebook app, and then there's the Messenger app. And the Messenger app is the one that requests the always-on microphone permissions, and the Messenger app is the one that's doing this listening and stuff. And so this isn't super clear because it's saying the Facebook Identify TV and Music
app. Of that app.
I don't think that's an app. Yeah. I think it's the actual Facebook app is doing this, right? Because they talk about it turns the feature on when you're writing a status update. You can only write status updates from your main Facebook app. You can't write them from the Messenger app. So this whole thing to me is makes me even more suspicious because it's they're debunking this rumor without addressing the actual content of the rumor, which is kind of a pattern I see at Snopes a lot, and why I'm increasingly frustrated with the whole fact check scene.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. I'm glad that we're starting to realize that we need to do fact checking, but this doesn't make me feel any better.
No.
And I think so. On iPhone, you can have permissions, right? Mm-hmm. And you can set permissions and be okay, allow Facebook to access your photos and stuff. And Android doesn't even have that at all. Android's just you get this app and it gets your phone. You approve it at the beginning and it gets it, and then you got it. But even so iOS is way ahead of Android as far as I'm concerned in that regard. But even iOS is dude, screw that. It's not good enough. Because I'm using a Facebook post and I want to put a photo on Facebook. I have to go in and I have to enable Facebook to allow my photos.
Yes.
Then I have to publish a photo, and then I have to go back into my settings afterwards to re-disable Facebook to have access for my photos. Sometimes I forget, And the other thing is it's Facebook is having access to all of my photos in that time, right? They're not just having access to the photo I want to give them. So I want iOS to let me just say Facebook gets this one photo and nothing else.
Yeah.
But whatever. Every little step counts, right?
Yeah.
It's all losing battle all around. Senior Trump appointee fired after controversial comments. I don't think either of us know much about this. Do you know
I
much
don't know
about?
too much about it either.
It's this guy, Craig Deere. I don't really know who he is or what he does. It seems like this is kind of a broader. Okay, so we have a couple things that we can talk about here. So let's talk about this one too. As leaks multiply, fears of like a deep state in America. I thought this was kind of like a hilarious thing because it was like when all that stuff about Flynn came out,
Yeah.
right? It was like everyone all of a sudden was like talking about the deep state. And Bill Kristol was like, if it's a choice between the Trump administration and the deep state, I'd go with the deep state, you know? And it's like, what? Who are you? Like, and so it almost seems like this piece came out in the New York Times a couple days ago.
Yeah.
It was like trying to dial that back. Like, whoa, we don't know if the deep state's really real. It could be a deep state. We could. What do you think? Is there a deep state? I mean, is that a what's the deep state if you had to describe it? Like,
it's ambiguous. I don't know how to pinpoint its description.
Right. Okay, so I would describe it as like, I mean, there's like the elected bureaucracy, right, where people like working at the Department of the Interior, but I wouldn't really consider that to be the deep state. I think it's more like unelected officials who also have security clearances or something like that, right? Like CIA officials, NSA officials, people who are influencing policy, who have the ear of the president, who aren't really elected anyway, and we as Americans aren't allowed to know what it is they're saying or doing. That to me is like the deep state.
Because the DMV is a governmental organization,
and
I don't really see them doing some kind of shady backdoor stuff.
So I brought this other thing. I haven't finished reading it. It's about 100 pages, but it's I got about 50 pages into it, and I was overall very impressed. And it basically talks about the deep state, but more under the context of this double government theory. And he kind of compares it to the double government theory was originally created to like talk about the British government, right? How they're like a monarchy, but they're more of a republic. They shifted power to the prime minister, and then sort of everyone kind of knows it, but some people don't know it, but it's kind of underhanded. And he sort of compares the U.S. deep state to like the opposite, where like we had a republic, and then we needed to get more efficient and respond to like national security threats and stuff. So the deep state kind of emerges and that sort of thing. And I just really like this because I thought it was like a super good like academic level dissertation of like, yes, this exists. Like this exists. This is how it was created. This is the historical background.
Give some background. What's the sources look like to be?
Yep, sources are great.
Valid
like
argument.
Frontline, New York Times. It's really well sourced. It comes from Harvard, so it's like pretty solid. Like as far as sourcing is concerned, I would definitely trust it more than like the New York Times or most things of that nature. So yeah, pretty impressed. All right, so the deep state exists, and the news media lies about it. Okay, moving on. ABC reporter delivers pointed declaration to Trump. We will pursue the truth, even if we must endure your wrath. I just really wanted to highlight the bravery of this man here.
Oh yeah, look at that.
An American hero.
Oh yeah.
Standing up to what a loser. Okay. This one. Okay, so this is I've never heard of this website, The Inquisitor.
I had seen something on The Inquisitor earlier about Caitlyn Jenner taking over for Arnold Schwarzenegger on The Apprentice.
Oh, God. Okay, well, whatever.
Anyway.
That actually is, like, if that does happen, that's a super relevant thing. But I don't want to get into that right now. But it appears to be valid. I mean, there's an interview here of Pablo Escobar's son, like, talking to this Inquisitor guy or someone else or I don't know who. But basically it's making the point that, like, he came out with a book saying that his dad was running drugs for the CIA, which most people who follow the drug cartels or drug trafficking in any level are super, like, yes, this is obvious. But, like, to have his son say it, I think is kind of a big deal. Obviously, his son is kind of, like, trying to push this narrative, right? And he has a vested interest in pushing this narrative. So there's maybe some reason for some skepticism. But I think it's, like, they're absolutely right. I haven't heard anything about this in the U.S. media, and I think it's worth reporting at least that he's claiming that.
Well,
You know what I mean?
especially since that period of time where 85% of the cocaine within the United States came from
right,
was facilitated through Senior Escobar.
Right. Yeah. So that's a neat thing that happened. Good to be aware about. Former British Prime Minister Edward Heath is a pedophile. This is from the Telegraph, which I think is kind of, I don't know my British press as well as I should, but I think the Telegraph is kind of more on the like tabloid side of things. And this is definitely being, like if you look at these, he's having an affair.
Hashtag last night in Sweden.
Right. Yeah. Okay. This is links from the Telegraph. Did they just link to their own? What the heck?
Branded by incompetent witnesses.
So, Ed Heath was under accusations of pedophilia. He's friends with Jimmy Savile. There's a different page where Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile was like convicted of pedophilia and that sort of thing. This is kind of dark. I don't know exactly how accurate it is, but it's a narrative that's happening in British tabloids, and I don't know. We'll see.
You got some, pretty aggressive tabloid journalists in that country.
Right, yeah. Cool, there's that whole thing where you can't say negative things about the crown, but you can insinuate them in tabloids. So it kind of does divert some journalism into the tabloids and that sort of thing. I think it should be treated as a fringe website, or a fringe news media outlet where it's like sometimes you only get narratives that are, okay. Uber to investigate sexual harassment claim by engineer. The LA Times has a ad block paywall, and I am not going to turn my ad blocker off for the LA Times, so screw them. We won't read their website. But, basically, it's like if you're working in Silicon Valley and you're shocked by sexual harassment or racism or something like that, it's like, where have you been? I don't know. It turns out programmers aren't nice people a lot of the time. All right. Popular domestic programs face axe under first Trump budget. So the big one that people are talking about is PBS, or CPB, which is a CBS affiliate. They fund PBS. I don't actually know quite how that organizational structure works, to be perfectly honest. But the thing that was really frustrating to me about this article, it does provide some good background about like how we're spending caps on programs and that sort of thing. But like, why would they not put a list of what programs are getting cut? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that seems like the most basic factual reporting of like what programs are getting cut, which, and there's this whole debate of like, should we fund public things and should we defund public things? And I think there's a lot of room for maneuver. Like, I think public services are important. I also think the U.S. is, like, hilariously corrupt or, like, wasteful in the way that it spends money. So, like, I don't mind talking about getting rid of some stuff or getting rid of some stuff. It's just, like, let's talk about what we're getting rid of. That seems like the most basic first step for a news organization.
I think Neil deGrasse Tyson actually piped up, said something about this a few weeks ago, something about PBS, for instance, encompasses 0.013% spending.
They're super low percent.
It's like, deleting text files on your laptop.
Right, to make room.
To make room.
That's a good comparison. Like, it's not.
But, they don't really list it.
And PBS is the one that always kind of gets outraged. Because it's like Sesame Street was on PBS and that sort of thing. We talked about this, right?
Yeah,
this
we
is
did.
a copy. Okay. What's this one? Trump and the truth about Sweden. Okay, I kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday. But this is basically this guy who is some YouTube blogger from Sweden.
The angry immigrant.
Angry immigrant.
Yeah.
And he basically says the same thing that I was saying yesterday, which is like, yes, there was no terrorist attack, but immigration is still a serious problem in Sweden. And I kind of wanted to I highlighted this yesterday, but I want to go into it again because it's like there's this idea that like Trump supporters believe that Trump intentionally makes mistakes in order to start certain debates. right?
Right.
Like Trump wants to have the debate about whether or not immigrants are bad for Europe, because that supports his line with Brexit. It supports his line with the Le Pen supporters in France, and it supports like people in Sweden, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like who believe that Muslims are bad. I think probably it's a little bit Islamophobic. I think people are probably overreacting
It's
to the
blown
thing.
out of proportion. I mean, like,
Right.
you know, this guy, for instance, is saying that, well, nothing really happened Friday night in Sweden. Had like some music festival that played crap music. However,
But then he spends 10 minutes talking about how bad like immigrants
you know,
are.
they might have allowed, in the past few years or so, 114,000 immigrants from a lot of these nations are, they have some instability. But like with Sweden's case, he's trying to correlate the influx of immigrants with the increase of crime.
Right.
Now, there are various reports out there, statistics.
You were saying you don't think the statistics necessarily back that up.
Like his statistics that this man presents don't really back that up. Now, Sweden has actually seen a decrease in crime, a slight decrease in crime over the past 10 years.
Right. And so, I don't know, I'm just frustrated because the left thinks that, like, every time they're like, oh, Donald Trump is so wrong about Sweden, like, they think they're winning that argument, but they're not, because they're just allowing Trump supporters to bring up this other thing. Like, and this happens over and over with the misspellings and stuff.
Yeah.
Where, like, liberals are like, ha,
we're better than,
we're better than Trump and his supporters because they use the grammatical errors. Where it's like, but you're losing the other arguments and you come off as being pedantic. The other thing is like, all of these immigration problems are caused by previous U.S. interventionism, right? Like if we're talking about Syrian refugees, it's like, well, that's a result of the Iraq War, right? Like directly. Oh, yeah. And like, so the entire debate, like to me, it's like, well, we're dealing with these problems from 40 years ago, but we're not actually talking about things like whether or not it's good to invade countries, that sort of thing.
We're not really talking about what caused all of this a whole lot, it seems like.
Right. So the entire thing seems a little contrived.
Yeah.
But it's good to recognize the patterns and figure out what's going on in the press cycle. All right. Video just surfaced of Milo Yiannopoulos defending pedophilia. God, I hate talking about Milo.
I don't know. It's just like he's the kind of guy that just feeds on people perusing, scrutinizing, and criticizing him. That's just what he wants.
Yeah.
It just seems like he does everything on the basis of just shock value. I'm not really...
I mean, the other thing is he's a child abuse victim. Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, it's not a good look to go after him for saying he's defending pedophilia when he's, like, a victim of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that I don't think you're going to win that argument. I just don't.
I mean, in some of the quotes, I skimmed through this article where he goes, kind of in this, this quote right here. It's
right. I mean, this is kind of like, okay, in the homosexual world, some of the relationships between younger boys and older men, coming of age relationships, these relationships, they provide them with love. And I don't really support saying that. I think that's a bad thing to say. But he knows he's doing outrage stuff, and I think the only appropriate thing is to ignore him.
Don't feed the troll.
Don't feed the trolls. Gotta learn not to feed the trolls. Bipartisan senators just took measures to keep Trump from destroying Russian treason evidence. Okay, I didn't actually read this one. What's going on here? Did you know?
I just kind of stumbled upon it. We've been hearing about like Russia.
Right. I'm kind of skeptical of the whole Russia thing.
I am too, because there's so many conflicting news stories around that time, especially with the DNC.
Yeah.
And Russia,
well, it's
I'm
like
confused.
All the stuff from the Russia stuff just came out so quickly.
Yeah.
And it was all there'd be like one anonymous report in a thing, and then like 100 articles would get reported, and then like that first one would like issue a redaction. You know what I mean? And it was just like over and over again, you would see this pattern where it's like, it seems like none of this is real. But I mean, some people are very convinced by it.
Yeah,
so I don't really know. It seems like it was deflection for the DNC. Like they were embarrassed by the leaks and they had to make up this Russia story. And Hillary Clinton also was trying to antagonize Russia, and so was the Obama administration. Yep. So like it also furthers that agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Does this have anything? I don't know. I don't really want to read this.
I don't either.
All right. So we both have the same opinion on that. If somebody thinks we're wrong, Join us on
Yeah.
the Riot web chat. Robots take human jobs should pay taxes. Yeah. Great idea,
Yeah.
Bill Gates. I think Bill Gates is a really bad person, but this is a good idea.
You know, at first it was immigrants, and now it's robots.
They're taking our jobs. Yeah. It's interesting to see like robots kind of replacing the slave class, right? And it's like you talk about like robot uprisings and things like that. It's like, well, that's kind of true. Like you can see why it's all. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but you almost have this sense that it's like the result of guilt. Of like, here we go, we invented robots, let's make them slaves. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, objectively, like, yeah, that's probably better than using like people as slaves. Like, okay, yeah. Not my President's Day. Protesters rally to oppose Trump.
No, in the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist president.
Sick.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I bet they love neoliberalism and neoconservatism.
I bet they do. I bet they do.
I'm pretty sick of rallies without any kind of strategic goal. That, to me, is like, if you're going to protest, the act of protesting should be something that achieves an aim.
Definitely, you know what I mean? Achieves a desired result.
Right, yeah. If you're standing on the street corner and yelling, it's like, okay, you got press, but at a certain point, it's like, why? What are you doing? Why are you here?
It's just like there's people in our community that are going to be like, yeah, let's go and protest, and I just feel like, what they're trying to do is the right thing, I guess, but
it's good to participate.
In their heart, it's the right thing to do. But
yeah, it's good to participate, and anything is better than nothing, right? Definitely. But it's still dumb. Like nothing is dumb, and this is also dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I don't know.
Yeah, protesting is just not my thing. It's just
sure.
not for me. Like what we're seeing right here, you're not going to see me doing.
I don't think it changes many minds.
No, it doesn't.
Is the thing. In fact, I think a lot of times it can have the opposite effect. I think it can say like, "Oh God, there go those stupid protesters again." What idiots. Yeah. All right. I think we did it. Did we do it?
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Hopefully that wasn't too long. Oops. Sorry for the inappropriate Kanye West thing, people. All right. Let's stop it. Thanks, Will.
Yeah.